Okay, so we are back. I guess I'm gonna combine the final thoughts of Rising and Chronicles since they are a continued story. I will keep it very short when it comes to Rising, since I think I mostly just want to talk about Chronicles when it comes to final thoughts. So overall, Rising, it definitely feels like a sub game. It feels like, don't pay anything near full price for it. It's a mechanically somewhat fun to play game, but the story is just okay, and unfortunately is bogged down by literally dozens of fetch quests as you go around getting stamps for the mayor and slowly recruiting new people into a three-man party. So, like, if you skip all the stupid dialogue, because let's face it, I don't really need to hear 40 something things of dialogue for catch more rabbits or I need 10 pieces of hard lumber or something like every time. And I just want to be very clear. There is literally more dialogue for that kind of side quest stuff than like the actual story itself. The story you could literally summarize in an hour. I don't think it's really worth going into spoilers for it because there's really not that much that happens in terms of the story. Which might be the first ever in our final thoughts to just not bother with spoilers. But I would say for people that are like vaguely curious in the series, it's okay. I think some of the difficulty could be a bit wonky. It really just depends on how well you can use character unique mechanics like parry or making sure you air dash. And like from a movement perspective, I had fun moving around in the game, like learning to do like a quick jump into an air dash to land and kind of do kind of rapid cancels depending on the terrain elevation, or using like attacks to stall in the air in order to go into more of a platformer. So if you're looking for kind of a more action-oriented game, it's not bad, but I don't know if it's going to be, your game of the year kind of thing. So I would lower expectations, I would say, if you end up playing Rising. And honestly, I'm just going to say it, skip almost every dialogue, even potentially the main story dialogue. It's just one of those things where it really is like the script of it could be read out in barely in an hour. Like I'm willing to say I think I've played some Castlevania games with more main story lore. Like they say a lot, but nothing happens. It's probably the best way to describe that kind of story. And from an action standpoint, the game itself is kind of unsatisfying in the ending, and that is the closest I will get to a spoiler. So I wouldn't invest yourself too deeply if you're looking for a narrative driven action game. Yeah, I think from the standpoint of the other components, you could kind of see the developers are kind of new at it. Again, there's elements of what we'll call like mechanical brilliance mixed in with some of the worst UI and menus I've seen in a while. So even just like casual things, like if you have 6 quests lined up, right, and they're all boring fetch quests, why do I have to open the menu to manually reassign to the next active subquest? Why? Who playtested this and thought this is how this should work? You're like, you really want me to open the menu 5+ times in order to tell me where the next stupid thing it is that I have to drop off, wherever it is, for whatever stupid reason that they're looking to go through and do that? I don't know. I feel like that's just like brain dead. It's not very well thought out. They try to at least put in the equivalency of warp points to make it a bit less tedious. And there is fast travel around the town, which is not too bad. But yeah, I would say overall, unless you're playing on legitimately the harder difficulties, the game itself is not challenging until some post-game things. I mean, as per usual, I kind of rate it kind of in the... It's probably fine for what it is. I would say for people that play like a lot of games, it's probably safer to play it on hard mode, but just be aware that there is like a decent amount of jank in the game that can kill you. That's why I said the difficulty could be wonky, where some bosses are like ultra free, and then other times you'll get hit by like the stupidest thing as you like dash through a dungeon and you'll take like a bajillion damage if you're playing on a high difficulty. I personally have no interest in doing the hard mode playthrough. We went through normal, and we could kind of see where the hard mode came in when we basically leveled up the dungeon, is the best way to put it. And I was like, I'm kind of glad we didn't play like this without more abilities. I don't think I would have had a good time with it. So those are final thoughts there. I'll keep it real short. But from the standpoint of Chronicles... Oh, man, Chronicles. Well, for people that want to play a more turn-based RPG versus something action-based, it's okay. I think it's just another one of those things where the developers are kind of fresh, and you can tell. There's a lot of decisions that remind me of like the 90s Suikoden, for better or for worse. And it's also mixed in with some modern mistakes, which I think is a bit unfortunate. So I will try not to be negative the whole review, but I will say from a menu standpoint, from a combat standpoint, I was pretty disappointed. I mean, this game has had decades to build upon what is considered basically like a very memorable series, and a lot of time to improve and refine things. And in a lot of ways, they're even backwards from those games. So it's not even like they just carbon copied mechanics from 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. They kind of did their own thing. I'm sure for legal reasons, they had to make it, you know, legally distinct enough from Suikoden to update some of the core mechanics and subsystems. But then they just felt really lazy or just unfinished, to the point where I was like actually questioning things as we were playing the game, which is not a good sign. And we've played many RPGs on stream, and I will say from a feel standpoint, it definitely felt like one of the clunkiest. One of my major gripes, especially with how often combat pops up in this game, before we even talk about story or anything else, which is its own tangent, I really do not like the rune system, MP usage, or auto combat. Pick any one of those topics, I could probably talk chat's ear off for an hour. I will try to condense it for you, since I do not want this to take an hour. But in order of irritants, I would say auto battle sucks in this game. For a game where you have literally up to like 1,000 battles before you get to the end, if you're 100%ing it and you're going through, you're trying to get the chests, you're trying to do all these other things to get characters, do not waste my time telling me that I could put strategies so that characters don't use MP, or don't use items, or don't use the new mechanic for SP, which is a somewhat interesting balance tool, but is very horribly implemented, which we'll go into in a minute. Do not tell me these things exist here, and then forget to code the strategies to work the way that they say that they're going to work. If you say don't use spells as one of the things, or you pick 5 actions in priority, which is very similar to games that have been existing for decades at this point. You could think of like Final Fantasy 12, I think, did it first, that I remember in the console versions of stuff, where you have gambits and you say if this then that. So like if low on health, cast this. You could do that in this game, but it doesn't work. What's the point of having this entire system if it doesn't work? And there is no excuse. There is no excuse. It has been out for over a year. They still have not play tested this. I was very upset when we played this. Chad probably remembers I got super tilted when I was like, okay, I have a support mage. I don't want them to use their abilities because I only care about using them in boss battles. Let me just put on this, remove all mentions of spells from their top priority actions, and I don't want them to use SP because some of their attacks are super slow and it wastes a lot of time when an auto attack will kill them. I don't want to sit through this animation, which by the way is unskippable and unbearable that you can't speed it up in modern RPGs. Side note. But it's just one of those things where like, all I want them to do is auto attack and then maybe occasionally use a skill on a resource that regenerates. And the fact that like You could spend all this time setting up all these characters, and then your idiot mage casts a spell anyway, even though it's not in the priority actions. You explicitly tell them not to do it in some scenarios, and they still use healing magic or support magic. And it's like, why? Lack of playtesting. Frustrating. Very frustrating, especially in a game that is like easily 60% combat, because let's face it, it really is. Due to how many auto battles there are, how many battles there are in general, to have something so fundamentally broken in the game is incredibly noticeable. Like, not every RPG nails every skill in terms of balancing, but like, to flub a whole subsystem on something that's supposed to make combat easier pisses me off. I'm just gonna be real honest with you. It is really annoying. We had to like figure out what magic combinations of strategies I can do so that my idiot spellcasters don't burn all my MP because like some rabbit crossed my path. Clearly I want to Inferno Pillar it into the, you know, the sun. Cause you know, that's, you know, I could kill, it has like 50 health, but let's do like 1,000 damage spell for no reason on it. So frustrating to tell them, or to not be able to tell them to do that. So we eventually tinkered around enough that it stopped being an issue, because this is pretty apparent very early in the game that it is not working as intended. So I don't know how they playtested this, or if they even playtested any of the subsystems in this game, but I feel like that's just kind of the standard as you go through, where I'm like, I don't know how much of these developers have actually played other games, let alone played their own game, which I find kind of wild, and I just genuinely feel baffled in the combat system. So we started talking about MP and runes. Other Suikoden games instead had like tiers of spells, so that way you had level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 spells. That kind of exists in this game, where runes give you different levels of magic. But instead of having like, I can cast on a character 3 level 1s, 4 level 2s, you know, blah blah blah, like per level you get casts, they do a generic MP system. And I'm gonna be honest, it felt terrible. Everything felt super overpriced. I don't think until you get into like genuinely like 2 or 3 dungeons from the end of the game to post game does MP feel even remotely balanced per character. Like, imagine playing any other RPG and being told, oh, you have a black mage character? Oh, well, you get 3 spell casts until you go post game. Like, they would look at you like you're crazy. You're like, what do you mean you only get 3 spell casts total? I'm like, yeah, because it costs like 120 or 100 MP, and you only have 300 MP for a majority of the game or less. And you would look at me like I had 5 heads. So, I don't know why they decided to do that. There's at no point in the game that I'm aware of, I didn't find it in the playthrough if it exists, anything that reduces MP costs that you could wear as like an accessory or anything like that. So there's some characters that genuinely for 3/4 of the game or more can cast like no offensive magic at all and have to rely off of like 20 to 40 MP support magic, and you might still only get 4 to 6 casts depending on where you are relative to the end of the game. Sometimes only like 3 casts depending on where you are in the game, which is kind of embarrassing. So that felt pretty terrible. That felt pretty terrible. It doesn't help that a lot of the runes themselves also don't scale off the magic stat. So like, I get that there should be like some abilities that can be useful that are more like, oh, this improves your defense, so therefore your magic stat is not relevant. It's like your shields and your shells and whatever in Final Fantasy. And you're like, okay, maybe stuff like that doesn't have to scale off a magic stat. And it's like, those are just simple things you could put on characters and it works as is. But then like, they did that for almost every supportive spell and damage spell in the beginning of the game. So without giving you any UI indicator that this is how it works, and on top of that having hidden subsystems, which again, frustrating. Why would you do this to the players other than to piss them off? You now have like elemental affinities that you don't see but would only learn by testing the same spell across like 5 characters and finding characters with different affinities to realize stuff doesn't work well on certain characters, which is like, there's so much testing you have to do just to figure out if something is even worth using. So like, put yourself in the shoes of a new player without looking at any guides. You're like, oh, I'm gonna use this fire missile spell. Oh, it only did 40 damage. Let me try another character. Okay, it did 120 damage. Surely that's because of magic stat, right? Oh, no, that's all magical affinity. It doesn't care at all about your magic stat here. And you're like, wait, what? You're like, why can my frontliner with no magic outdamage my mage in the back row? This doesn't make any sense. So it's just like that lack of information in the UI and incorporating stuff that kind of existed in the other Suikoden games, but presenting it to you poorly is a very frustrating experience. It's kind of ironic that some of the supportive spells scaled pretty well in this game for that reason, where they became more useful than the offensive magic. Because honestly, like, damage spells, especially if you want to play a more traditional blaster kind of character, are basically non-existent. I don't think it's until like you're almost at the halfway point that you get upgraded runes that you finally start to get spells that rely off your magic stat, which is stupid. So it's like the whole beginning of the game, you're like, oh boy, I got a mage whose magic stat doesn't matter at all, and they just have absolutely atrocious defense and absolutely atrocious magic defense too, because they can't really equip certain things, nor have they really started to scale upwards. So you're like, oh boy, I'm stuck with like 2 useless characters that all they could do is support magic instead of just having Oops All Tanks, because Oops All Tanks literally beats the entire game, by the way. Mini spoiler. I honestly, until like legitimately the last quarter of the game, I don't think they just do anything. I guess it's kind of cute that they tried to have some of their weapons do damage based off of their magic stats, so they had something scale. But until you start getting like all the runes that potentially multiply your stats, there's just kind of no reason to play them. Like, why do I care about raising my magic defense or physical defense or healing when I have AoE healing items that I can use in abundance and more often than the water rune can? It just doesn't make any sense. I don't think it, like, in isolation, some of these things work. In the system that they are presented in, they don't make any sense. And I feel like maybe they only balanced for true endgame, which is a sign of they don't really know what they're doing. Like, if a player doesn't have fun from levels 1 to 60, why does it matter if it's balanced at like level 70 plus? Like, I don't think they really sat there and went through the game as like a new player, or they just did all manual control. Who knows? Something doesn't click right. And I feel like that sentiment can extend to so many things. Like, you know, they have some characters that take up 2 slots, but their stats aren't really good enough to justify taking up 2 slots at any point in the game. So it just feels like you're playing with lack of characters unless you feel like a more challenge mode character. You're often forced to play with certain characters in a convoy system, which is similar to Suikoden. And unfortunately, they can overflow the convoy, which makes me very mad. So it's like, if you're going to have a game with 70 plus characters, and you want to have people that follow you for the story reasons, and you go as far as allowing you to have 3 slots for characters that are mandatory for the story, but can be subbed out, why would you then, towards the end of the game, force you to play with like 6 mandatory characters? It just baffles me. I'm just like, to just expand the convoy system so you don't have to play with these characters. I'm just like, they were so close. It was right there, chat. They had everything coded, but they were like, you know what? We're gonna put like 5 people in your party. So if you didn't want to play with the protagonist, here's another 4 other characters that are gonna join in your party, and you have to play with them. And you're not allowed to touch their equipment or otherwise upgrade them. So you have to hope they do decent damage. And oh, look at that. They don't do decent damage because you're not allowed to put buff runes on them or other things. They're like, oh, they'll just have like cure blindness or some BS on instead of something useful. What a nightmare. I also don't like how they handled a lot of character level ups or even runes in general. So let's talk about not even just the rune magic scaling being complete whack in this game, but there is just like clearly characters that are on a completely different level from everybody else, and then there are characters that are truly terrible. Unfortunately, the game often forces you to play with some of the truly like bottom of the barrel characters. There are characters that get so disrespected in the stat department that at no point in the game are they useful at any role, at any time, with any setup. They're just so bad. It's like, what do you do with a character that's like 30% slower than the rest of the party, has a defensive stat that is easily 50% less than the rest of the party, has a damage stat, both magic and physical, 30% or more less than the rest of the party? Like, this character is actually just a dead slot in your party. Like, sometimes they actually genuinely melee something for like 30 damage, and like your main characters, not even talking about like your super buff top of the line characters you get to choose, but even just the main character is doing like 5 to 6 times more. Faye is a great example of terrible characters. I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with this? And then you level them and you're like, surely they have characters that level pretty well. And then like they'll go up like 1 or 2 stat points to level up, and then like you look at all the other tank characters or all the other protagonists and you're like, oh, this character went up 3 to 5 in every category. And then they keep doing that for the next 30 levels, and then the same character that was behind in stats only goes up 1 to 2 points. So you're like, cool, now they're taking literally hundreds of damage more than all the other characters, and they're slower, and they don't have good rune slots, where essentially they tried to kind of balance it, but also I would say failed very much so in this regard, to say that some characters, when they level up, can take on stat buffs or magic spells or combat abilities, but like even that is like really unbalanced. It's not really fair when the game gives you a character with like 7 rune slots that are free, they get like 8+ magic on a level up, actual insanity, and their defense is on par with frontline tanks. I'm just like, why even play other characters? And I feel like that's kind of the problem with it, is like you'll just kind of notice that certain characters are better, and for pretty much up into post game, there's no reason to ever not use those characters. So it's like, why would you ever sub out a character that gets +4 in like every category other than like magic stat? They're like the perfect frontliner, and they outspeed, so you don't even take damage, so you don't even need healers. And they're completely tanky. They could be hit by a boss for like 30 damage when the back row could be hit for like 100+. And when the character is also out hit pointing everybody, why would you bother with half of the mechanics of the game? And that's the problem with it. It's just not balanced start to finish. Even the post game is complete chaos with stats. Some characters that are useless become usable or even good, but only in like their last 15 levels, like levels 80 to 99, essentially. It's like, it baffles me. It just completely baffles me. Like, someone had to consciously go through and select the stats for these characters. It's crazy. I don't understand why they did stuff like this. So from a combat perspective, because it takes such a large focus of the game, what other general complaints do I have? No speed up of animations, we mentioned before. This also extends to when you go to smith people. So if you want to get max level weapons, I hope you like sitting through a 12-second animation up to potentially 10 to 12 times per 60 characters. That's a lot of time waste on something that is like really not all that important for some characters. So I don't really appreciate those kinds of things in a modern RPG. I'm gonna be real honest with you. I'm kind of glad that we moved away from this as the whole, on the whole, across different RPGs. And I feel like because you can't speed up battle, and allies have to go in a very specific order in combat, that you have to watch them leap forward, attack, leap back before another one tends to move. Rarely you'll see them all jump at once if an enemy happens to die, but it's just one of those things where even combat is slower than its predecessors, because the auto attack isn't smooth where all 6 characters leap, attack, leap back. Like, even back then, the auto battle was better. Just like, I don't I just feel myself totally baffled how they can get some of the, like, if they were copying the playbook for combat from the other games, why did they introduce so many poor decisions and bad things into the game? Like, I definitely feel like the 2-slot characters got absolutely hosed in this game for no reason. I definitely feel like for characters that can't use shields, they should have just enabled you to have a different accessory slot. I think that would have solved a lot of problems in this game. For all the characters that don't have a shield slot, which is a majority of them can't use shields, that you should have had a second accessory slot instead, because you'll end up finding that a lot of things that kind of fix the bad parts of the combat are kind of like you have to wear them all the time or combat is just unfun. Like, oh, is leveling getting really slow as you're getting to the midpoint? Well, hope you're wearing 2 different accessories, you know, because your one character can only hold 1 accessory. So you're gonna have 2 accessories for XP, potentially 1 item just for item boosting or money, depending on where you're at in the game. Then you need to wear boots to speed up your movement, unless you play with a very specific support character. And then you also probably need like 2 levels of item rarity, because they also make some items extremely annoying to acquire for certain mini games. So it's like you have like you literally sometimes have 5 mandatory items at any given point once you get to the midpoint of the game, and it's insane. And it just like it takes out all the levers away on how to balance characters by saying like, oh, they have bad stats, but maybe they get more rune slots, or maybe they get more, you know, accessories that could kind of cover their gaps. And the answer is no. They did not do that. They did not do that. So if anything, it feels like they have all the tools, they have accessories that fix stats, but like you just don't use them the majority of the game. So if your character's like 60 defense under and you pick up a 30 defense accessory, it'll be like, oh, that would have been useful, and then you put it away because you find more XP, more items generally more useful, because you're trying to get, as I said before, something rare to use or something that's an improvement for your character. So just kind of weird choices all the way through with combat. It's just very disappointing. I think it's really insulting that they have like non-mage characters that can use highest level magic, and almost none of your beginner mages end up learning high level magic at any point. I find that pretty insulting. So hope you don't have any attachments to early mages, because not only are usually they kind of bad in stats, but yeah, they don't scale well in the game either. Game hates them. But I think from the standpoint of combat, I think we talked about every gripe I've had. Speaking of combat adjacent, duels. Duels in the system are the worst in the series, period, uncontested. Anybody that says anything else is lying to you. I'll be real with you, chat. The duels in this game, trash. Trash. How do you mess up rock, paper, scissors duels? Why would you ruin rock, paper, scissors duels? If you're gonna have the NPC talk to you to inform you what ability they're going to do, why is it only attack or defend, and then both options still result in you taking damage? Meaning that if you don't have the protagonist with like some health boosting items, or is like over leveled to like beyond get out, you lose duels even though you choose all the right options. Actually wild. Not tested. Just not tested, chat. I don't know what to tell you. So hope you never ever substitute out the protagonist, because if they are not exactly at max level for the area, you are just hosed. You're just not winning a duel. You're like 2 levels under the party, you're done. You're not winning some of the duels. In particular with Marissa. Marissa was super bad with that. Because she is defensively and HP the weakest of the 3 protagonists. I guess minor story point there. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's painful. It's totally painful. Story-wise, honestly, shoutouts to them for getting voice lines for basically every major line of dialogue in the game. Shoutouts to them having alternate dialogue scenes depending on who you talk to the most towards the end of the game. There is a lot of voice acting in this game. There are hundreds of characters. Even the recruitment stuff, for the most part, has additional things that you can end up using. 1 second as I skip forward. So it's one of those things where I'm kind of shocked that, you know, they have all the voice acting set aside. Some of the portraits are more animated than some of the previous versions. Even the modeling is not too bad on some of the characters. But then they just kind of copy Suikoden 2 again. And I know people like Suikoden 2, but I'm like, just we didn't need like a third Suikoden 2. I'm sorry, we didn't need one. I was kind of hoping for a different story, but I'm like, oh boy, we have an overprotective sister character that's kind of going after you, and oh no, I guess she's gonna get injured. Oh, I'm supposed to care about this character, even though all she does is put herself in the party over and over again. Is extremely selfish. Oh, she's not even related to us this time, so she's just ultra annoying for no reason. Thanks. Glad that made a return in the story for some reason. So I definitely felt exasperated when it was literally just... It was Suikoden 2, but what if instead of having a rivalry with the protagonist of that game, you actually just join sides? After a brief disagreement where you're on opposite sides. It literally is just the plot of Suikoden 2. It even has a vampire lord. Like, I'm not even kidding you. It's like, they literally are just kind of like, it's not Necklord. It's, this blue guy. Oh, he's totally different. Oh, yeah, he's real unique. Oh, yeah, it's definitely just not Necklord again from Suikoden 1 and 2. It's this guy who's controlling an army of undead minions. Oh, darn, that did that in Suikoden. They're remnants. Oh, that's how we're gonna make it different. Oh, it's either not undead. Oh, it's totally different. Woo! Like, I'm just like, really? Come on. I mean, it also kind of took away some elements from 2, which I kind of laughed at as well. Like, you have you're traveling around to different cities to form up the rebel army from 2. I guess you deal with less bird people, which were probably the worst part of 2. I guess kudos to them for getting rid of probably the worst part of the game, because those characters were pretty unlikable. But from the standpoint of the plot, if you played Suikoden 2, you've played this game already, unfortunately. And unfortunately, we've played it. They've re-released Suikoden 2, so there's a pretty good chance that if you are going to play this game, you probably have seen the plot play out. You have your, like, 20% slightly more believable Luca Blight character going around being evil and doing things with rune beasts. They try to take some elements from 3, where you split the story perspective and you follow certain teams as they do missions, which is, like, somewhat interesting. But then those sections are, like, really, really unbalanced. And unless you really figured out the magic system, which is already a mess, where you're not really sure if spells scale well or not, now you have to take a brand new party where you don't know their affinities, and you're like, I'm going to a place with fire runes, and surely one of my characters will be good with fire magic. No, they're not. No, they actually have penalties there. Why get any rune upgrades from the area you're in that would be usable in later areas? That would just make too much sense, chat. You're just thinking outside the box on that one. You're talking crazy. So unfortunately, the story itself ended up not being as interesting. The beginning part of the game was, like, slightly more interesting to me, when it wasn't as readily apparent they were just carbon copying Suikoden 2. Like, they were setting up the rivalry between the characters and everything, where I was like, oh, okay, if that's all they do, it's not the end of the world. But no, they kind of go further. There are some strong female supporting characters that I was generally interested in or entertained by. Like Periel, I thought was probably one of the better characters and better voice actresses. I thought she was a more interesting character. I find it a shame that she just gives up everything so the protagonist becomes the leader. Unfortunately, I feel like the reasoning is really weak for it. Unfortunately, war battles are back.
On with you. You're supposed to be my distraction, so get out there and start distracting. Yeah, mule. Whoosh.
Yeah, pretty much there. That sums it up with the voice clip. Unfortunately, war battles are back, and just like Suikoden 2, they don't matter. They absolutely don't matter. Just letting you know. Like, Suikoden 2 wasted your time by being like, oh, look, there are 6 units in the forest. Surely we will be able to ambush them, and oh no, something tragic and unexpected has happened that has ended the battle early. Oh, surely, whoa, how unfortunate, woe is me. Oh, were you spending time repositioning your units and figuring out who's in there? Ha ha ha! Silly person, your actions don't do or mean anything. Your efforts were pointless. And unfortunately, just like Suikoden 2, there's like 2 battles total in the war battles that actually matter at all. There are literally times where I literally just stood at the beginning of the battle and was like, I don't believe this is a real battle. I'm gonna move over here, but I don't think it's a real battle. And then it's like, oh no, something unexpected has happened and another army's approaching from the west, and the battle ends, and I'm like, just like a big eye roll, right? Like, they have all these mechanics for like figuring out your sub-generals and the units underneath them. They don't matter at all. They don't matter one damn bit. You literally just let the game autopilot select everything, you'll probably still win. So it's just like another subsystem that's in there for the sake of being in there. And they kind of just made it slower and worse. Instead of like a Fire Emblem movement from 2, it's more of a 3D, watch them very slowly fight each other thing. That was still turn-based. So it's just kind of, it's just, I could live without it. And I feel like, unfortunately, that just kind of sums up the game. It feels like there's a lot of interesting ideas. There's like moments where I'm like, oh, that was kind of neat, or I like that, followed by, oh, this has been in every other RPG ever, including but especially Suikoden 2. So I feel like if you're looking for a game of the year, I can't recommend this game, unfortunately. It just has like too many flaws with the combat. Characters are all over the place with balance, so it could be really boring when you have like 70 characters and like 20 of them are viable, and then like another 15 or so are just absolute joke garbage tier characters that are unusable trash and not worth your time pumping up, unless you're specifically going for a challenge. Because if you like these characters, haha, their stats are terrible, they never scale up, get wrecked. like honestly, like they're just so bad. It's just like, what are you supposed to do with some of this stuff? But anyway, I think this is a game where at least 60% to 80% of the issues could have been solved with the patch. But the fact that we're on like DLC number 3, and by the way, DLC, don't buy, waste of time. Don't buy them. Absolute trap, not worth your time. The story is basically a recap of everything that you already know if you've been watching the main playthrough. Do not bother with it. But from the standpoint of the rest of the systems, like, I feel like if they just fixed UI loading, like, that was one thing I forgot to talk about with the UI. Why is there so much lag going between menus? I'm like, want to go from like the equipment screen to magic to status, and it's like boop, 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 and it's like that is the delay between going through and like just moving the menus, where you're like mashing the button. You're like, listen, menus should be fast, and they're like really laggy. And then like sometimes, like if we've let the game play for a while, it would also slow down a little bit. Like, we did notice it, so it's definitely not optimized correctly, because we do not experience slowdown on any other game, let me tell you. So there are just some weird times where I'll go to the rune shop menu, and it's like, I hit the confirm, I hear the sound effect, and there's like a 7-second delay before the menu pops up. You're like, what is it possibly loading? Oh, and don't even get me started on the nonsensical BS sort order of the characters. I never figured out what it was. It's different between shop menus and your main menu. And there's no default sort to just put your party at top. I have no idea what they were thinking. There are like 80 characters in this game. You think I'm gonna sort through like a list of 50 characters when it's like possibly by region? So it's like, am I really gonna memorize these regions? Because it's not the order you recruit them, and it's not the order that you find them throughout the land. It is just like the most nonsensical BS list I've ever seen. And then you go to an item shop and then they're not even in that nonsensical list. So even if you remember that the character you're looking for is 36th in this list of like 70 characters, they might be 55th or like first. There's like, it makes no sense. It like some of it groups it by the characters they're related to. Like of the 3 main characters, they have some characters near them, and then other times it just puts them at the bottom of the list. I don't know why. Who knows? I never understood the menus. They were probably the most frustrating part of the game. When all you want to do is equip a character, it loads, it lags, it takes like 5 seconds. Then you go to do this, and then it's like, okay, now I want to make sure that this is here, and now it's gonna load, it's gonna lag, and then it's like, oh, it just gave you a list of characters that are in complete nonsense Looney Tune land of order. And I'm like, well, okay, well, let me find the character. Then you scroll through, then you gotta resort, then you equip something, then you go back, you go to purchase another item, and you gotta do the whole sort and move thing again. And it's just like, it's so tedious. I just refuse to believe that people, if they were really seasoned developers, or even seasoned testers, that somebody played this and went, that's the system we're going for. Let's piss off the player by having such long load times and nonsensical sorts and lack of logistical sort. I would have always thought that if you're equipping a party, your party members that are currently in your party should be first in the menu. I know it's like so wild to believe that when you're in a store and you're trying to equip people in your main headquarters, that you probably still want to equip the people that you have, do other things like that. I know, I'm talking crazy again, but you know, it's just one of those things where like, there's just so many points where I could just go to say like a patch would fix this, or like they really need to improve performance here, or they really need to do different options here, or this actually has to work as written. Or like, you could patch this game up, and I'm sure it would be a great game. But unfortunately, we played it in the state that it was today. So I'm going to pause there for the review. I'll let chat say anything that they want to say. I will say from a spoiler standpoint, we'll talk like 5 minutes of spoilers. The DLC involving Marcus/Marcus, depending on who says his name. Which, also, by the way, also small tangent, I love that the voice actress for Isha kept calling the main town she belongs in something different every other dialogue you talk to her. That was unintentionally funny, and I felt like the voice actress was gaslighting me. Is it New Neva or New Nevea? They're different words. Which one are you saying? You flip-flopped on them. I don't know what canonically it is anymore. I would have thought it was New Nevea, but she kept calling it New Never for like the first 4 dialogues. That blew my mind. But yeah, Marcus's story, anyway, talking about lines where you're like, wow, let's learn how he became the Skeleton King. And it's like, he literally was like, I'm the Skeleton King, baby. I'm like, that was it? He had one moment of tragedy and it was like, I'll become undead. I'm like, wait, that was the big buildup for the DLC? I was born to be Skeleton King. Yeah, pretty much. Welcome, Chris. I don't know. It's hard to take that kind of stuff seriously in the DLC. It is not worth your time. It was like, it was ironically, or unironically, yeah, it was ironically funny. It was not intending to be funny. It was meant to be very serious, but it was probably the funniest part of the game series, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. I think the game needs a huge balance patch and a lot of bug fixes. In particular involving strategy menus and other things like that. Momo's reveal was at least somehow better, more logical than Skeleton King. Honestly, the story in the DLC was terrible. The other thing I want to make fun of. Like, I know it's not like the biggest budget game. I know it's a Kickstarter game, but when you talk about a village being destroyed, can you give me something when we're in the when we're in the treetop village, like oh no, my town is totally destroyed, and it's literally the same town. Nothing is damaged, there's no new objects like furniture on the floor, nothing is burning. I'm like, this is the most peaceful invasion I have ever seen. And then they're like, we gotta spend time repairing the town, and I'm like, what did they even damage? What did they even do? Craziness. I don't know. Yeah, some of the 3D modeling in particular for the army battles was very, very my first year of Blender. I even called it out in the playthrough. I was like, listen, I haven't done that in years. I am pretty sure I could have done it more convincingly. And that's not a good sign, because I don't think I'm good by any stretch of the imagination. But it was literally just like very lumpy, weird looking terrain with a texture on it. I'm like, I can do that. That's like, even if I don't remember exactly every command because I haven't done it in years, I could watch a tutorial and do a better job. Where it's just like the terrain was like really mushy despite it trying to be like a rocky outlook. It's like they just needed more vertexes. They needed to angle it a bit better. It just looked really weird. Such carnage, such a destruction, I assume. I don't know, like, how did chat feel about the characters overall in spoiler territory? I definitely thought the Nanami stand-in from Suikoden 2 was, like, really, really bad in this game, and she has so much dialogue. Why does she have more dialogue than, like, every other character? It's, like, so obnoxious. I don't even remember... Oh, Lean was also really annoying. Yeah, it did not help that they were, like, buddy-buddies either. I feel like from Malor Walk the Line, yeah. Oh, I forgot to talk about this. Some of the boss mechanics are garbage. Oh, how did I almost not talk about the boss mechanics? Hold on. We're gonna spoil this because it involves Malor. Chat has reminded me of something I blanked out because it was so bad. So, like, they have literal things called gimmicks in boss battles. And one of the earliest gimmicks in boss battles that you end up doing is literally pick left book, pick right book, Malor summons the power of magical judgment or whatever. It was kind of annoying. And you have to 50-50 guess what side the boss is going to spawn on for it to do anything. Why is that a mechanic? Why? Why do they have, like... And then they literally call it gimmick, and I'm like, yeah, they really are stupid gimmicks in these boss battles. They don't add anything. Like, it was a bit better when it was like you're redirecting an attack with a gimmick, or like you're setting up a harpoon gun to shoot the squid. Like, that was a little better. Or like opening the floodgate so you don't take damage. Like, that was a better use of the gimmicks. But yeah, they were really, like, at best 50-50 on whether they were interesting or just completely trash. Chris was way too cooking and way too dumb about his wife. Yeah. Oh, the cooking minigame was also terrible. So, I think some of these minigames were stretch goals, and it feels like it. Like, chat can fact check me if they want to on the original Kickstarter, but stuff like the egg foot racing and the cooking minigame just felt really undercooked, pun intended. Like the cooking minigame where it just felt like actual BS guessing. No, right, chat? Remember what was the super gyoza or whatever that just beat everything? We're like, whatever. Or like the people that are like, I love the people that are like, I really want X item, and then you go to do it, and then like two of the other judges who you don't know that well just give it a 1 and you fail. So it's like, why even bother figuring out what they like? Yeah, it's like why even bother? And then you get judges that are like, we like Eastern food only, and the other judges are like, I like Western food only. So I'm like, oh, I'm screwed then, because I don't know what they want then. I either please 2 judges and fail to, or I fail to, and then please the other 2. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm stuck. What are the neutral options? Yeah, it did not feel well implemented. Oh, and then like the top spinning game also feels like a Kickstarter stretch. And I will say, the dialogue was amusing for it. It did what it needed to do, but it really seriously needed better mechanics. The fact that, like, you go around, you have to collect the stupid tops from all these monsters, and the fact that you get a top early in the game, and you can't beat anybody because there's, like, it's like 90% what top beats what is selected, and then 10% skill. It's like, why would you design a minigame that is that much front-loaded on, I hope you have the right elemental affinity top with certain stats in order to defeat this other person, or else you don't win. You, like, and then it's like, it talks about, like, you could clash them, but then, like, some characters have, like, reasonable to react to cues, and some of them are, like, legitimately frame 1 or frame 2 of them getting a full meter, they instantly fire it. So you have, like, such a tight window And it becomes more of like a timing mini game rather than like a, oh, you see a spark and you hit a button before the spark does anything. It's literally just like they just go pew pew, like just like it just got really annoying at times. You also love the Elemental Quartet boss gimmick for the side story minigames. Yeah. As I said before, I feel like if you played like other RPGs, you don't really see anything new in this game, and mostly for the worse. The few things that have changed are just not very well implemented, and that extends mini games, combat, duels, army battles. They're just not. They're like pale imitations of like much more solid mechanical games. I think it's unfortunate. But yeah, I think that covers basically everything I wanted to talk about. I managed to keep it to a reasonable time, given we talked about both Eiyuden games. So Rising, I could give a pass for, you know, if you want to play it as an action standpoint, skip all the dialogue. It works. It could be fun moving around in that game. I had fun with the combos in that game. But from like an Eiyuden Chronicles, would I play it again? Probably not. It just doesn't have the appeal to me that like 1 does for like shortness of game, or 5 does in regards to just like a lot of mechanics. Even if the game is on the easier side, I could ignore some of the flaws of that game because I just generally enjoyed the story and the overall synergies with different characters. I just like the group a lot better. Rising 7.8 out of 10, too much treasure. Yeah. There's just too many side quests. Like, I can't, like, if you were to give it a numeric rating, it's hard to rate it above average. It's like maybe like a 5.5 or at very generously a 6. It's okay. Would I recommend it over like any other game in the genre? No. Is it like offensive? No. So it's somewhere in that average to like very slightly above average. Chris says Eiyuden was okay. Nothing stand amazing enough for Kickstarter experience. With any luck, if they get to make a sequel, it would be a large step up. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, I just feel like if they just had a more experienced studio, it would have been fine. Like it has a lot of sub mechanics in it, but they're not well explained. A lot of the things connecting them are very slow. Character balance is all over the place. Like, chat loved Pole. Chat wanted characters like Ivy to be useful. But, like, then we get them and they're like, wow, they're literally like a third of the other characters and they never get better. Thanks. So I feel like they could have played around with it more, and I'm okay with some characters being more challenging. But, like, don't force them to be mandatory characters if you're gonna do that. All characters should be Momo. Yeah, Momo was on a completely different tier. How that character exists, that character alone justifies magic being used at the end game. like you're not gonna bother upgrading all the other mental stats, all the other characters. Just literally play Momo. There's no reason to play any other mage. The character is just clearly better than everybody. So stupid. It's like when that character has like 900 plus magic score and then like our next best mage at like 550, it's like, why even bother? Right, chat? Like, why even bother? Who cares? Don't need any other mages. What are they gonna do with half of Momo's damage at best? Dumb. Well, anyway, chat, I think we'll pause our talk here. But yeah, overall, I'd still be willing to try more games, especially since, unfortunately, the scenario writer passed. They are putting it in the hands of some of the other Suikoden writers. So I am still curious enough to continue the series. I don't consider it like it wasn't like the most awful experience ever. I'm just hoping that they get more experience. I don't know if they'll do other games on the side or what the deal is, but they really need to step up the development. If we see another game on the same level as Eiyuden Chronicles, I'm gonna be like, I might pass on their RPGs until I see proof that they can fix like very straightforward, very easy to observe issues. Like, I'm not even nitpicking. Like, they really had a really bad series of subsystems. And it's like, for a game so combat oriented, it really needs to be smooth like butter. So I hope they spend like a year figuring out what they could have improved on the system or whatever. Because the writing was okay. I just prefer, you know, hope they can't possibly do Suikoden 2 again. So I know my biggest gripe with the story shouldn't happen again. And if they rehash Suikoden 2 again for like the 4th time, I would lose my mind. But yeah, I'm just hoping that they move away from that. Yeah, I think it's moving to like the Suikoden 4 writers who were like, I don't know if I blame the writers for that game, because it did give us some amazing dialogue, like, wait a minute, this is a jail. But from the standpoint of gameplay, I'm kind of hoping they take more cues from the 5th game. But we'll see. Anyway, chat, we're gonna pause for now. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention, the race music started playing. That racing minigame was also terrible. Remember, chat, where I was like, oh, the D-pad controls randomly get reversed when you're too close to the wall. The old distraction of not helping a beef. To be fair, this game gave us amazing dialogue too. New villain, Buka Light. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. But anyway, chat, let's pause for here for now. Yeah, oh right, there's a racing minigame. That basically sums up oh, that was terrible. Let's never experience that again. It could be applied to like every minigame in this game. But anyway, we'll pause here for now and say goodbye to YouTube. But as I said before, we'll see where it goes with future ones, but it is what it is. So for now, thanks for watching, and I guess see you again if they release another game in the series.